Hi, welcome to our Bible capsule for Calvary Church of the Nazarene. I'm Pst Brenda, and I want to continue our conversation about the widow from Zarephath. Her story is found in 1 Kings 17, verses 8 to 24. Last week we ended our conversation in talking about her and her obedience to Elijah's request. And because of her obedience, the Lord provided for her during the famine and the drought. And today I want to pick up this conversation. As I was reading, I read a quote in a book called The Comeback by Louis Giglio, as her story was inserted in the text. He says, "When Jesus is enough, we focus on what we have, not on what we don't have, and not on what we still might lose. Jesus isn't the God who looks at the overabundance of the world's wealth and sees that as the answers to the world's problems. Instead, he looks in unexpected places like the widow in our story. Jesus sees the power in the poor, the downtrodden, the meek, and those without power. Jesus sees great value in them. So Jesus' answer isn't to take from them. He invites them to places of prominence and importance in his overall story. God looks at people who are poor in the things of the world and says, 'Do you realize how incredibly important you are?' Those are some very powerful words, and it really made me think about this story and where I wanted to camp for a few moments this week. Again, God doesn't use the world's wealth to solve the world's problems. He uses his wealth, and his wealth includes you. But we get stuck in this mindset planted by the evil one or by society around us generally, believing the lie that he doesn't want to use us because, well, we don't have enough money, or we don't have a car, or we don't have the right brand clothes or the right brand shoes, or maybe we think that he can't use me because, or use you because, you don't speak the same language as your neighbor or your coworker, or maybe we believe that we can't be used because we've done something bad in our past. Sometimes we say, well, God, maybe you should use so-and-so because they're more gifted than me. And maybe that's true. But true in whose eyes? In your eyes or God's eyes? So, what about God's eyes? If God is asking you to do something with the gift that he's given you, then he's going to use it for his glory, but only if we are obedient. You are a part of God's wealth, and God wants you, and God wants to use you. God wants to use you to touch the people he wants to touch. God wants to use you to speak life into the lives of those who are spiritually dead and need to be awakened. God wants to use you to feed the hungry. He wants to use you to give a cold drink of water to those who are thirsty. He wants to use you to help clothe the naked or visit those who are in prison, both literally and figuratively. He wants to use you to heal the wounded. God wants to use you to comfort the brokenhearted. God wants to use you because you are a part of God's bigger plan, and you are incredibly important. He wants to invite you to a place of prominence and importance in his overall story. Do you realize how incredibly important you are? It's really something for us to think about. And if God asks us to do something, are you going to be obedient? Because he wants to use you. See you next week.